How's it going, brothers and sisters? I wanted you to see this, and then I have something to say about what he says.
The cops might have saved the mayor's wife's life. It's going to make it hard for her to like the ISIS post, though. That's going to be tough for her. You know, Zoran is a naturalized immigrant, and many of these violent, hateful people are the same. I don't think this idealized nation of immigrants that we talk about means anything unless there's a common denominator. We've forfeited the expectation of assimilation. We no longer even, it's not like we don't even demand it. We don't even expect it. And we're too scared to reject their anti-American positions, all for the sake of appearing tolerant. This is what you get, suicidal empathy.
One of the funniest and most insightful personalities on TV today is the great Greg Gutfeld. Let's listen to what he has to say about Islamic terrorism in America and Islamophobia. And of course, I want to hear what you have to say about this. And don't forget to leave your comments below. Subscribe to this channel, and we'll talk to you on the other end of the video.
Is it Islamophobic to wonder or suggest that Islam is not as welcoming to other religions as religions are to them? It's just, I just wonder, because I never hear this equation in reverse. I'm glad that the cops might have saved the mayor's wife's life. It's going to make it hard for her to like the ISIS post, though. That's going to be tough for her. You know, Zoran is a naturalized immigrant, and many of these violent, hateful people are the same. I don't think this idealized nation of immigrants that we talk about means anything unless there's a common denominator. We've forfeited the expectation of assimilation. We no longer even, it's not like we don't even demand it. We don't even expect it. And we're too scared to reject their anti-American positions, all for the sake of appearing tolerant. This is what you get, suicidal empathy. We extend our hand, they want to chop it off. There's a vibe shift going on over the last 20 years. When you see the media covering for terrorists, that's different than, say, 2006, you know, when the mayor leads with Islamophobia after a terrorist attack. That's interesting. Neglecting that this so-called Islamophobia actually is arising from Americaphobia. They don't like the West. And this is a public and brazen persona. We see it, and we're not allowed to do anything. This is just my opinion. I don't want this to happen. But what drives me, yes, I do. Do I? I don't know. Anyway, what drives me nuts is we can decapitate Iran, kill their leader, and we can't rub out two parasites on the street who just tried to kill a bunch of people. I mean, I have the feeling that you could have just shot them dead there. You don't know if they have another bomb on them. But what's going on in the cops' minds? If I shoot this guy, I'll get in trouble. You know, the only reason why these guys lived and nobody died is because their fallibility. You know, their bombs didn't go off. You know, I mean, 20 years ago, they would have been shot dead. And that might actually save more lives by sending a message that we will shoot you on sight. Instead, you know, however, everybody's going like, oh, I can't do that because that'll be brazen. Me just saying that is brazen Islamophobia. Well, call me an Islamophobic if I want two terrorists. ISIS-inspired means ISIS, period. They should be dead.
You didn't mean that Islam was not welcoming of other faiths. It is. The text affirms that they, I mean, I'm Christian. This is why I want to make sure.
Monotheistic faith. I mean, but not polytheistic.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you didn't. That's not what you were saying.
Says it. I don't think.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of Christians. I think there are many who fall short of the text.
Let me be very clear. I'm a Christian. The Christian text says a lot of things. A lot of Christians fall short. So I just want you. I don't want you. You shouldn't be. You didn't mean what, because you were saying Islam may not be welcoming.
Everything that I say, Harold. I mean everything. Look. If I've been around on this country since 2001. I've seen a lot of people bend over backwards to say that this is a religion of peace. And for the large part, I agree with it, but you don't need a lot. You don't need a lot of people. Of course, you know, all practitioners of Islam are not terrorists, but certainly an overwhelming amount of terrorists are Muslim. So we have to live with that. That's a reality. And if we run from that reality, we will never figure this out.
Well, once again, the great Greg Gutfeld, late night Fox News TV. I mean, what a great personality, what a funny individual, and really insightful at the same time. I think one of the most important points he brought out about these two Islamic murderers, terrorists that wanted to murder multiple people, ISIS-inspired terrorists in America, is that guys like Zohar Mamdani, the mayor from New York, the Islamic fundamentalist, communist mayor from New York, he's definitely hiding behind this smokescreen, what they call Islamophobia. That's just used so Muslims will say, you can't criticize us for everything. We're going to throw it out the window, because what Greg Gutfeld was talking about is something called Americaphobia. That's what's igniting this, is the real hatred of the American government. People could come to America, the freest, greatest democracy in human history, and use our freedom to take away our freedoms from us. This is exactly what Islamofascists have been doing with organizations like CARE and the Muslim Brotherhood and Shia Muslims around Europe and around the world. I mean, look what's happening in England today. You just need a certain population of people, 3, 4, 5%, have some influence on the electorate, and they start voting people in, and then people start getting scared about them, and then they start demanding things against Israel, kill the Jews, murder all Israelis from the river to sea, Palestine will be free. And all they have to do is work together with the extreme left of this country. And it's not so extreme. Usually we talk about the Red-Green Alliance, the communists, the Islamofascists, like we saw at Columbia University when they took over the campus, started beating people up, attacking Jews, breaking the school in parts, and then putting their encampments in front of places that nobody wanted them to be at. We start seeing that this is creeping towards the Democratic Party right now. It's not so extreme. It's not the far left. It's the moderate left now, which is becoming more pro-Islamic. In fact, this is something we saw in Minnesota for the last few months. Of all the graft that was going on in Minnesota and the billions of dollars stolen from Medicaid and other programs and sent to Somalia, this was looked into years ago by people in Minnesota, but they were told, you can't look into us because you're what? Islamophobic. So it's used as a smokescreen for people to not take any responsibility for their own behaviors. But ladies and gentlemen, we have to watch out. Zohar Mamdani's only been in power for a few months right now, and up to 20 people died because of his policies from hypothermia. That's unbelievable. There was a car ramming of a Jewish synagogue in Crown Heights a few weeks ago, where the guy tried to ram his car into 770 4 or 5 times over and over and over again, another act of mass murder. And now we're seeing that if somebody demonstrates against whatever they want to demonstrate, which is fine, that's First Amendment, you can gather and demonstrate whatever you want to say. Anybody that speaks against them has the right now to use bombs and to murder and to maim, as opposed to using democracy and counter-demonstrating, which is a great right, and speaking back to them. They bring bombs, weapons of mass destruction. Those weapons that those two guys had were filled with nails and bolts. They were meant to cause mass casualty, blow people's heads off, blow their limbs off, use those nuts and bolts to cut through their heads and their eyes and their chest, through their heart. I mean, this was an act of tremendous, tremendous terrorism. And they just found out in Pennsylvania, they found a storage area of more weapons. I mean, an explosive. This is extremely dangerous. And what does Zohar Mamdani do? Nothing. He condemns the anti-Islamic demonstrators, but then he doesn't condemn and label the ISIS terrorists as murderers. He doesn't do that. Says it's not nice what they did in the counter demonstration. He's hiding behind this, Zohar Mamdani. He knows if he does it, the Muslims that support him to get into power will back off from him. He's in big trouble right now, but he's refusing to do so because don't forget, Zohar Mamdani was a member of the Students for Justice in Palestine, a radical anti-Semitic, anti-American organization. He was the co-founder at his university. It's an organization started by the Muslim Brotherhood many years ago to destroy Israel, to destroy the United States, and they do that very effectively. Many of the demonstrations you're seeing on campuses at Columbia and Harvard were students from Justice from Palestine. His connections, Zohar Mamdani, run deep with Islamic fascists. The person he picked to be his head attorney defended ISIS in America. He's the guy that refuses to condemn the term globalize the Intifada. He was the one screaming from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, which is a term of total genocide against the Jewish people. In fact, his wife, it was just been found out, had over 70 social media posts supporting and celebrating the mass murder of Jews on October 7th, the rape, murder, dismembering, and death and destruction of over 1,200 Jews in Israel. So it seems like Zohar Mamdani is hiding behind this, as Islamofascists are supporting him right now bringing bombs. We've never seen like this at this level last few years, bombs being brought to rallies in New York City. This is the future of New York City. This is what Zohar Mamdani's administration is doing, which is basically 20% anti-Semitic, according to the Anti-Defamation League, take extreme positions against Israel. And not only that, on the first day of his administration, Zohar Mamdani got rid of rules and legislations that protected the Jewish community that are survivors of the Holocaust, that are supporters of Israel. There was an executive order that Adam signed to protect Jews. And it's called the IRA definition of anti-Semitism. The first thing he did in the first few minutes was get rid of that clause which protected the Jewish community. So we're seeing more anti-Semitism in New York, 187% increase of anti-Semitism in the last few months, number one. Two, we're seeing people are less safe. Now we're seeing terror in New York City, and the mayor of New York is saying absolutely nothing about it. So thank God that Greg Gutfeld is speaking out against is bringing some clarity, dispelling the nonsensical argument of Islamophobia, talks rather about Americaphobia, and he's speaking a lot of truth to power right now. Thank God we have him. But of course, I want to hear what you have to say about this, so don't forget to leave your comments below.
Christ said, "Call no man rabbi or teacher." At 8:55, he says, "Well, he was the one screaming from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," which is a term of total genocide against the Jewish people. Well, two wrongs don't make a right. What about the Jews saying from the Nile to the Euphrates? Isn't that the opposite? An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth leaves the world blind and toothless. Or does Israel believe it's chosen so they get to run the world how they please? Once Islam is eradicated, I'm pretty sure Israel would turn on the Christians that oppose the Third Temple. Most believers in the Talmud believe Christ is not the Messiah and boiling in feces in Sheol hell. They're still waiting for their worldly Moshiach. Hypocrites. Larry Silverstein, a Jewish owner of the towers, just so happened to miss work the exact day on 9/11/2001, and he planned to immediately rebuild without taking time to mourn the victims. How convenient. Both towers came down freefall speed, including WTC-7. That wasn't supposedly hit by a plane, only had a fire, but they pulled it on live TV, a term for demolition. And then they found non-incinerated passports of the Muslims. How interesting. So the USA went into the Middle East. It's called the pot calling the kettle black situation. The people are waking up to find out both sides are to blame. The Lord will judge righteously against the synagogue of Satan.
World Trade Center 7 had always been considered the starting point for rebuilding. Located north of the slurry wall, 7 had been cleared faster than the rest of the site, and there had been no bodies to recover. Pelted by debris when the North Tower collapsed, 7 burned until late afternoon, allowing occupants to evacuate to safety.
Where were you on September 11th?
I was home. And the only reason I wasn't where I was every morning, subsequent to the 26th day of July, my mornings were spent usually at a breakfast meeting at Windows, an 8 o'clock breakfast meeting, Windows, the top of it, right? And then going down to visit with my tenants, my new tenants, at the Trade Center, getting to know them, understanding their problems and so forth, ascertaining how we could service their needs better, which is one of the first things you do when you acquire a property. You begin to meet your tenants and start talking with them. And so my mornings were spent at the Trade Center, and then by noon I was back uptown. And so that particular morning, because I have light-colored hair and fair skin, and I'm an annuity to the dermatologist, my wife, God bless her, had made an appointment for me at the doctor. And I remember dressing to go to the doctor. I'm finally saying to my wife, I said, "Sweetheart, I've got so much to do downtown. I got to cancel this. I've got to go downtown." And she said, "You're not going to cancel this appointment. You're going to the dermatologist." And, having been married now to the same woman for 46 years, you get this sense of determination on occasion, their voices. And I said, okay, yes, dear, I'll go. And then just minutes later, received a telephone call to turn on a television set and witnessed this horrendous circumstance. The first plane hitting, and then the second plane hitting. Of course, with the second hit, it became obvious that this was terrorism. But thereafter was absolute hell because so many of our people were down there. We were in occupancy, temporary occupancy of the 88th floor. of the North Tower prior to moving permanently into the 91st floor of the North Tower. And so my children, two of my children, Roger and Lisa, both work with me. They were on their way to work at 9 o'clock. Many others, about 100 people with us on their way to work. And as it turns out, had the plane struck 15 minutes later, our firm would have been decimated. I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, we've had such terrible loss of life.
And the Green Goblin. The Green Goblin, you like that?
Mr. Jameson.
Made it up myself.
They were on their way to work at 9 o'clock.
Who's the photographer who takes the pictures of Spider-Man?
You're not going to cancel this appointment. You're going to the dermatologist. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.